Bless thou the words of my lips and the meditations of our hearts, that they be of profit to us and acceptable to thee, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Be seated, please. Good morning, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Wonderful to be back with you in this great Transfiguration Church. Are you pleased with the readings this morning? Both readings were well done by the very young at age. Fortunately for us, there were two females to maintain that tradition. But what about the males? I encourage the church to get the young males reading like that. Fantastic reading. This morning, as I prepared for the service, I got your order of service, and I noticed that, as usual, Father Jennings wrote his message on the gospel and the readings today. And I bring a different, he has listed the readings into two perspectives, and I ask you to read it and follow what he has written. I bring you a third perspective so that you can further digest these words. And I start off this morning with a story. There's a story written about a man called the Star Thrower. Anybody ever heard that story yet? No. On a beautiful tropical beach like we have in Jamaica, when the tide and the surf would be just right, they would combine and cause a lot of shellfish to be cast upon the beach. Some of these shellfish were very beautiful. And so after they were cast upon the beach, collectors and sellers would come onto the beach and swoop up all the shells to take them home, where they would boil them and clean out all the flesh inside of them and then sell the shells to tourists. Some of the shells were very valuable because they were very, very rare. And a lot of money could be made by a collector. One morning, after the moon and the wind had been just right, and many shellfish had been tossed upon the beach, a man was seen at the far end of the beach all by himself, picking up starfish one by one and throwing them back into the sea. Curious about what he was doing with the starfish, while so many other people were busy collecting shellfish, someone went over to him and asked him if he too collected starfish on the beach. Only like this, he replied. I collect only for the living. And throwing another starfish back into the sea, he said, see, one can help them. He was asked how what he was doing could make a difference in the face of all the collecting going on. As he threw another starfish back into the sea, he turned and said, it made a difference to that one. I think that the story has a lot to say to us about Jesus and about ourselves. You see, in the midst of this world, people exploit things for their own personal benefit. They take every advantage to get ahead, to gain more than they already have, including things of exceptional beauty. Given the right circumstances, people rush to pick up that which is suddenly and unexpectedly made available, while they ignore the suffering that is all around them. And in their hurry to look after themselves. Jesus was like the man in the story that I just read. He moved among us. Who are like the dying starfish, longing for the ocean from which they have been tossed. And instead of taking what he could from that ocean, instead of seeking to enhance and enrich his own life, he paid attention to those who were in need. He collected for the living. He helped them instead of himself. In obedience to God's law, Jesus came among us to rescue and reclaim lost souls, to set us free from the power of sin and death by returning us to the ocean of God's love, God's law, and God's power. He came to restore wholeness to those who lay helpless and stranded upon the shores of life, because either the tide and the wind had cast them there, or, as is so often the case with us, because we have thoughtlessly and foolishly stranded ourselves on the shore. And Jesus did this at a cost to himself. As he said to the man who wanted to follow him, foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. Jesus renounced everything for the sake of bringing life to those around him. His family, his home, and finally, his very life he laid down so that others might live, so that others might know the blessings of God, so that others might be returned to the ocean of God's love. Some might say, the cost of this is too high to expect of us. We are not Jesus. And we do not have the special breaks that he had. And it is true that we are not Jesus, but we are called to follow him and to have his mind within us. And it is true, too, that Jesus had some special breaks. But God has promised these very same breaks to us if we would but walk with Jesus as he walked with us. The power of Jesus, the love of Jesus, the compassion of Jesus, the joy and the sorrow of Jesus, and the life everlasting of Jesus, all are available to us for the asking and the wanting, if we but follow him. And if we are but willing to walk as he walked and died as he died in obedience to the Father. I don't want any nodding off today at all. I would like these words to be absorbed. What did I say? Absorbed, digested, feeding on those words in your heart and mind. Now listen to this part of the scriptures this morning. Jesus said, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains but a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. The man who loves his life in this world will lose it. But the man who hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. This is the part of the law of God given in the new covenant. The law that is written upon our hearts and which is faithful in us if we but allow ourselves to hear it and to heed it. So you see why no nodding off is working with us this morning. But too often, we are like those spoken of in the book of Hebrews that was so well read this morning. While we ought to be teachers of spiritual truth, we end up needing someone to teach us the elementary truth of God's word all over again and again. We need someone to draw our attention to that which is written within us and is so apparent in the structure of our world, if we only have the eyes to see. Jesus knew this inner law of God. This law that states that the more we seek for ourselves, the more attached we become to the life we have. The more we seek to avoid pain and suffering, the more we ignore the needs of others and seek instead to meet our own, the more unhappy we become. And the closer to death are we. Jesus did not want the pain of the cross. He did not want death. He prayed to God that the cup would pass away from him. Nor can we imagine that Jesus felt good about how his family doubted him and his friends betrayed him. But even so, Jesus was faithful to the law of life. He knew that by caring for others, by putting the love of God and neighbor ahead of his own desires, that God would be glorified, that many who were lost would be found, and that he would raise up not just on a cross of suffering, but on the cross of glory as well. Think of this, that your things that you need to do now and always is to glorify Christ, glorify God. This is what Jesus has been saying to us all along. Every action that you take should be an attempt to glorify your God. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? When I say man, I mean women. So don't look like you are excluded. There are so many around us today with lost souls. They cling desperately to their families. They crave acceptance and love and hope to find it by gaining power and influence, or by simply doing whatever anyone else asks, no matter how good or bad it may be for them, or for the one that has asked it of them. There are so many who hold so tightly onto their lives in fear that they refuse to experience their lives in all the fullness that is available to them in both the good times and the bad times. They are turning on themselves and their own needs, rather than turned outward to the world. Think, my brothers and sisters in Christ, of the people who we have the most difficulty with, of those whom we do not like, and find it hard to love. Yeah, look around, yeah. Think of those whom we pity. And when we have the strength and grace to love them, find it so hard to in fact do so. Look around. Do not many of them share this in common? Are they not wrapped up in themselves, clinging to things that others have put aside? Whether it be resentments, hates and fears, or more simply, and just as difficult to deal with, an inflated estimate of themselves. And who do we admire? Who do we glorify in our heart of hearts? Is it those who win the lottery? Or those who are famous for building some great company? Or winning some great war? There's so many wars to win today, and they're not going to happen. Or do we glorify and admire deep within us those who show true love for others? Those who have accepted us, and others in their weakness as well as in their strengths. Do we not admire those and sometimes even gently chide those who give of themselves and ignore what we think their own needs are or should be? Don't we want to hug and encourage them and thank them for what they do? Don't we? You don't want to do that? Come on, brothers and sisters. That is a question that deserves a positive answer. Don't we want to give them a bit of what they gave others? All these persons that come into church every morning early before you come and fix up the church and make it presentable when you get to church. Don't you want to say thanks to them sometimes and give them a hug? Difficult on Sunday mornings to get up early in the morning. You could be resting like everybody else and don't come to church. Jesus spoke the truth very strongly at times. He said that those who love their lives will lose them. But those who hate their lives in this world will save them and keep them unto eternal life. But that truth is meant to grab our attention and to remind us that we ourselves often stand in the way of what God has in mind for us to see and experience. We are the ones who stand in our ways in God's view. What I'm saying to you here today is simply this. What we really need in life cannot be grasped by us. It cannot be fashioned by our own efforts. It cannot be taken by us from the shelf in the store. Rather, it can only be received as a gift of God. As a gift that comes to all those who give up trying to grasp it, trying to fashion it, trying to take it. A gift that comes to all who follow Jesus and with him love God and those around them that God has entrusted to their care, to your care. Because he was faithful in this, God has glorified those around Jesus, those who felt his care and his compassion. They praise God for what Jesus said and did, and for the love that he poured out on them. And they in turn gave back to him. Love given is love multiplied. Love only taken is love lost. If you don't remember anything in the sermon, remember this sentence. Love given is love multiplied. Love only taken is love lost. God himself glorified Christ upon the cross. He multiplied the work that Jesus did on earth, rewarded him for his faithfulness by granting to all who call upon his name and who walk in his way forgiveness for their sins and life everlasting. Jesus was a seed like you and I. He was a seed which did not stay lifeless in the bag, as the collectors on the beach this morning, but which instead fell to the ground and gave up all that made him a single seed, thereby giving life to others, lots of people. Today, I ask you to empty yourselves of your desires to save your life as it is. Turn to Jesus and call upon his name and his strength, that you may become a seed that instead of remaining lifeless in the bag, in the collection bag, falls to the ground, receives new life, and gives new life to the world. Alone we are nothing. We have no power that lasts beyond the day. But with God, we are simply a mighty host, able to endure and to triumph with those who are responsive to his call. Praise be to God, and praise be to Jesus Christ, his Son. Amen.